How's it going, everybody? Now, I told y'all I was gonna bring y'all a really good videos. What you're about to hear is the world's best conversation ever. Pay attention. Real quick, just to recap, what this conversation is I contacted a man by the name of David Straight, and I was asking for advice. My little girl's mom was in jail, and I was just explaining the whole situation with my daughter. And, well, I want you to re-listen to this conversation because it applies to everybody. I'm talking about everyone.
The underlying facts here.
Yeah.
The facts aren't that they put her in jail for going on the news. That's not the facts, because that's against the law. It's against the law for them to put her in jail because she went on the news. The fact of the matter is, they're criminals. They committed felony kidnapping because of the unlawful conversion of a Christian name upon a birth certificate. I mean, reduce it down to what's right and what's wrong. What's the simplest form? You have a daughter. Your daughter had a birth certificate. The birth certificate created an entity, a person, a U.S. citizen, a resident, and that's what they're trying to prevent people from knowing. Okay, so the mother signed that birth certificate as an informant. The legal definition of the word informant is one who gives someone else up to another.
Really?
She went into a hospital that was considered a foundling hospital, because all hospitals were designated as foundling hospitals in 1912. What is the legal definition of the word foundling? It's a safe place to abandon a child. So at 9 months pregnant, she went into a foundling hospital, which is a safe place to abandon a child, went through childbirth, was under duress, filled out paperwork that she was told, without any full and honest disclosure of the facts, was told that this is just to give your baby a name and to register its birth, when in reality it created an entity, a bond, an insurance policy, a security. It's got a custom number. It's regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. A Cesta QV trust was created, and the baby was bought and sold on the open market from then on.
I see what you're saying. Like, I see exactly what you're saying. That's the issue.
So because she signed the paperwork as an informant, she gave up title or equity to the child to the state. That's how they're treating it. That's why they can steal a child without any due process of law, without finding somebody guilty of a crime, without taking them to court. They do it because they believe they have title, when in reality the only thing they have title to is a piece of paper called a birth certificate. That's the only title they have, the entity they created, not the real live flesh and blood that's the surety for the bond. Okay? They kidnapped the surety for the bond. So when you reduce it down to this simple, absolutely factual, ridiculous thing that they have done through fraud, that's how you get your kid back. No one has a greater right to your child than you do. No one has superior title to your uniquely created biological property than you do.
I'll feel you on that.
So that reduces them to kidnappers and child traffickers. That's what it reduces them to. First of all, the agency that took them is not part of government. They have no de jure authority. They're de facto, which means they're without fact. They operate through the consent of the governed, as all government does. I mean, let's be real here. You want to fight for them, this is how you fight.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now, this is how you do it. Okay? They have no authority. If a police officer showed up, he has no authority. He works for a private for-profit corporation, a city or a county or a state. Okay? They are not de jure government. They are de facto. The Supreme Court of the United States says, since governments have chosen to incorporate themselves, they must follow the same rules as any other corporation. That they are not de jure, they are de facto. The rules, codes, statutes, and ordinances are not law. They are corporate bylaws. They're for officers and employees of the corporation to follow. Did she ever consent with full and honest disclosure to be an employee of the corporation?
No. Not even knowing.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm telling you. See, I get really mad and upset. I'm not yelling at you. I'm not raising my voice on purpose, but I get really mad and upset when I start talking and thinking about these criminals, these mafia bar association members of a monopoly criminal mafia association. They're a labor union. That's all they are. And their object is to defraud you, to tax those which might not otherwise be taxed, to make a profit. They're making a profit kidnapping and child trafficking children. Enough is enough. This is what ought to be stood up on the news and said at the top of your lungs, exactly this conversation.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see exactly what you mean.
I have no problem standing up in front of a court and a judge and saying this exact same.
Now, have you walked into a court? What happens? They choose who you are. So aren't they supposed to be your public servants? Aren't you supposed to be the boss and then the employee? Well, then how come you stood up when the judge walked into the room? Because the minute you stood up, you said, I'm the employee. Employees stand when the boss walks in the room. You know what the boss does when an employee walks up in the room? He leans back in his chair, he puts his feet up on the desk, and he grabs a cigar. Okay? That's what the boss does. So the judge, he walked through the door from his chambers in the courtroom, and the bailiff says, all rise for the Honorable Judge Paul Smith, and everybody stands up. If there's one person sitting down, the judge walks over, and just before he sits in his chair, he scans the room. Do you know the bailiff also scans the room? Because after the court's done, he has to swear an affidavit that no one was sitting when the judge walked in. Okay? He's the witness. Because the guy challenging his jurisdiction is the one that's still sitting. You stand up, you're automatically a citizen. They've got tacit agreement that you're a citizen. They have to get tacit agreement of 4 things. And they're going to presume it. Okay? First of all, it's all through presumption. Presumption, assumption, hearsay, and previously are the 4 most important words in the law, and they're not going to teach you that in law school, I guarantee it.